Hello everyone, welcome again to round number 7 of Norway Chess 2022. And one of the highlights of this round is Aryan Tari's upset of Magnus Carlsen. The two Norwegians battling it up in round number 7. And it was Tari on top of Magnus in the Armageddon. Okay, one surprising move here was Magnus b6 after e4. Check it out. Tari played e4 and Magnus b6, the Owens defense. All right, d4, bishop b7, knight c3, d6. Magnus just plays anything on the board, yeah, as he wish. f4, knight 7, knight f3, e6. Magnus beating Magnus. Okay, white has a complete control of the middle squares. White has space, should be 3, c5, castles, takes. Now it transposes into a Sicilian. Knight g f6, queen e2, a6, a4, bishop to e7, bishop d2, castles, king h1, knight c5, rook a e1, normal developing move for white. Magnus transforms the position once again to a French after d5, e5. So it started with Owens. Now it goes into Sicilian. And another change of dimension, changing the dimension of the game with d5 is more like a French now. Yeah, with e6, d5 is a French structure. f5, of course, threatening f6. Magnus went for bishop g5, takes. Here, white could also capture on e4 first, yeah, capturing e4 first, because if you capture d2, queen takes d2. Now let's say pawn takes e4, f6 comes into play, and queen g5 threatening me. And if Magnus captures e4, let's say with a pawn, then capture g5, queen takes g5, you drive away that knight with b4, knight goes back to d7, and then you get a free pawn. Yep. And if Magnus captures it with a knight takes e4, d takes e4, this bishop can swing to c3. Yeah. That can help in his attack on g7. You are threatening e6. If Magnus, let's say, for example, protects e6, queen g4, then it's a deadly threat. Yep, with f6 coming up. Okay, takes on g5, queen takes g5, rook f3. Magnus took on f5, rook takes f5, queen h6, queen to g6, knight f5. Now double attack is coming on e7, king and queen. Magnus play rook e8, takes on e4. White has to be careful also not to play knight d6 here with this pin, right? Because black has this little trick with knight takes d3. If you capture the knight, you are pinned. You lose a piece. So Tari is careful when bishop takes e4, he takes e4 before knight d6. And surprisingly, Magnus went for rook takes e5. Yeah. In the Armageddon, black just needs a draw. He doesn't need to complicate things here. Rook e7 was enough. Okay, maybe he was worried about b4. If b4 you have knight e3, okay, Magnus might have missed this move. What's the point? Okay, takes, of course, takes. Queen is protecting d3. It's also attacking h5 and g2 with that bishop on b7. But it was important for Magnus to play rook e7 to protect that bishop on b7. Okay, it's again, it's very hard to be precise in faster time control, yeah. Especially in a pressure situation, the Armageddon. Takes e5, takes. Magnus had to rely on his pawn on e4. Rook f5, but white is exchange up. g6, rook to d1, an important intermediate move to control the d file. Rook f1, e5, queen e3, stopping the pawn at the same time, keeping an eye on that b6 pawn with b4. It also protects that knight on c3. Magnus had to play a5, king g1, okay, king safety, by the way. Rook into e8, rook f2. The rook can swing to d2 and control the d file with rook to d6, threat on d6. f5, g3 first, because you cannot go rook d2 straight away. Black has f4. Take away that f4 square before swinging that rook to d2. Magnus went for king g7, knight b5, nice move. Rook e7, b3 first, protecting a4. If Magnus captures this pawn, for example, there's rook d7. If you go rook e7 takes, queen takes e7, queen d4 check, you lose that knight on a4. So it's not possible. That's why Magnus had to play rook e7, then b3. Knight goes back to e6, knight d6. Bishop a6, it was important here for Magnus to play queen c5. He has to exchange the queen. Takes and takes with the pawn. Yes, can probably go for knight b4 here. Although white is still winning with knight takes b7, rook takes b7, and rook b5. Yes. Okay, it's the power of the exchange. The rook against knight. Of course, the rook is superior than the knight. Bishop a6, c4, blocking the way of the bishop. Now this is a dead bishop with the knight controlling b7, c8. Knight into c5. And here it's white to play and win. And Aryan Tari delivered the final blow with knight takes f5. Takes on f5. Nice move, queen g5 check. King h8. Rook takes f5. Magnus cannot stop the threats of rook to d8 or rook to f8. What to do? If you stop f8, there's rook d8 mate. Where is the queen going? If you stop d8, rook f8 is mate. All right, that threat of the two rooks on two open files, the d file and the f file. And here Magnus resigned. And what a win by Aryan Tari, his first Armageddon win in the tournament. And he did it against the current world champion and fellow Norwegian Magnus Carlsen. Okay, a lesson here also, do not underestimate your opponent. Magnus playing b6 might have been a cause of his defeat. I think he just needs to play a proper line with Roy Lopez or the normal Sicilian, yeah. You just cannot underestimate a guy who is, okay, 200 points below 2663 compared to Magnus 2864. All right, that was it. What an upset. It was good for Tari. And with Magnus Carlsen's loss, Anand regains the lead in Norway with his win against Rajabov, which we'll discuss later on. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you for supporting our channel, Try Smash Chess and Try Smash Entertainment on Facebook and YouTube. This is Coach Oliver. Stay safe, everyone. Bye. Yee.